Hello all, James here. Now, this is going to be a relatively brief video discussing Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer Newsletter Awards for 2024. More specifically, why it's actually more impossible than ever to take them seriously. So, for those who don't know, the awards has been voted for by readers of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter since 1980. I don't know if they were always fan-voted, but they pretty much always were. So, that being said, it never fails to yield some interesting or downright bizarre, or you could even argue incorrect results, quite frankly, every single year. Now, 2024's edition was actually fairly based, but there were still a few results that really stood out to me that I'm going to get to in a minute. But it'll come as no shock to most of you that Dave Meltzer's personal tastes sort of infect, I guess, the results. You know, major awards like Best Wrestler or Best Television Show or Best Promotion are usually awarded to seemingly anybody except WWF or WWE if it can be helped. Now, I'm sort of basing this on sort of like market share to sort of awards ratio, very much so. Now, in the 80s, it was the NWA. In the 90s, it was Japan. In the 2010s, 2000s, 2010s, it was Japan, indies, smaller promotions for the most part. And from 2019 onward, it's been AEW. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a well-rounded worldview when voting for your favourite promotion, a wrestler feud, storyline, most disgusting tactic, if I can say that, etc. And I'm really not trying to stick up for WWE here either. But self-admittedly, Dave Meltzer has said that his own readership skews heavily towards AEW and Japanese wrestling promotions and fans, not least because that is actually Dave Meltzer's own preferred wrestling promotions and styles, although I'm sure if you asked him, he'd go, no, I don't have a preferred style, and birds of a feather flock together. But the Observer Awards are more biased than most people realise, as not only is the Observer readership heavily inclined to watch or prefer AEW or Japanese promotions or whatever it might be that isn't WWE at any given time, Dave Meltzer actually goes onto his own wrestling podcasts, his own Observer podcasts, and previews the Wrestling Observer Rewards. And by preview, I basically mean he's telling you who you should vote for, either by saying, oh, I think so-and-so should win this year, or, I mean, it's basically just what he says. He goes through every single one and then tells you who he thinks should win. So basically, like overtly or not overtly, however you think of it, he's telling you, or at least giving expectations on who he thinks should win, and therefore who should win. And, you know, sort of telling you the subscribers, I guess, assuming you're plunking down $14.99 for that. And if you are indeed, you can go to the January 3rd, 2025 Wrestling Observer Radio and listen for yourself how Meltzer sort of frames the preview, but he's basically telling you who to vote for. Now, does any other fan-voted award, or like fairly major award at least, sort of get previewed or whatever it is, or basically be told who to vote for by the creator and owner of the awards? Because if you can think of another example, let me know in the comments. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, then Dave Meltzer spent several minutes on the most recent Wrestling Observer Radio that had come out after the newsletter and the awards had been revealed, talking about why Will Ospreay should have won the all-round Wrestler of the Year accolade and not Cody Rhodes. Now, keep in mind, the Wrestler of the Year encompasses in-ring, promos, out of the ring, face of the company, what they meant for business. It's the whole package, basically. And he also was complaining about matches of the year being in the wrong order as well, but we'll get to that. We won't get to that, forget it, he just disagreed. That being said, Dave Meltzer, while comparing Cody versus Will, he did so to Joe DiMaggio and Ted Williams, an American League MVP 1941 in baseball, and actually said, I have a feeling, and it's not a quote, but it's not verbatim, but this is what he said, I have a feeling that people will look back at these results, and this is Cody Rhodes winning and not Will Ospreay, in 50 years, and say Will Ospreay was robbed. I mean, what a fucking nut job Dave Meltzer is. These are his own subscribers voting for this, who he admits, you know, skews more likely to go to AEW than they would to WWE, and they're telling him that Cody Rhodes won. Anyway, WWE seems to have to work extra hard, it seems, to gain votes for Wrestling Observer Awards and from their readership, as evidenced when Tony Khan won Booker of the Year in 2022. Now, this was the year that Paul Triple H Levesque as he likes to be known now, had taken over WWE partway through the year and all but erased Vince McMahon's shititude era, if you want to call it that, of the late 2010s, and turned WWE's creative direction around for the better, whereas Tony Khan, who had let previous Wrestling Observer Booker of the Year awards go to his head, was starting to falter badly. Now, here we are in 2024, and for the most part, I agree with the voting, and there are dozens of subjects, so I'm not going to go through them all, but there's still a few results that are complete head-scratchers that I wanted to share with you, so I'll do that now. So here we go, and this is the Category A Awards. I won't say A and B and everything. Anyway, Cody Rhodes won, and handily over Will Ospreay, who came in second. Once again, this is all-round. This isn't just in-ring, because the in-ring is the one that Will Ospreay won, which is Most Outstanding Wrestler. And he more than doubled the amount of points or votes, or however it goes, versus Bryan Danielson. So it's sort of what it is, really. Wrestler of the Year is for the all-round, and Most Outstanding Wrestler is for in-ring. But I just don't really think you can argue with either of those results, quite frankly, aside from the fact that Dave Meltzer obviously didn't call it a robbery. Next is Tag Team of the Year, and this is just... 2024 has been a sort of crappy year for tag teams, really, but the Young Bucks somehow still end up winning, which I call into question because they've barely wrestled all year. They did win tag titles that they then didn't really defend, and they were part of possibly the worst storyline of the year, which was the Meltzer driver on Tony Khan, where they didn't get his head within 3 feet of the canvas, and then that storyline went nowhere beyond some sort of like NFL draft thing, and Tony Khan had a neck brace on, and then that was it. Oh, and Shad Khan looked sad. Next up, Best on Interviews. Now, this is a very important one to talk about. Drew McIntyre wins. Well deserved. What can you say? And I think this is actually a surprise to a lot of people that so many people felt Drew McIntyre deserved to win this, and by a decent margin as well, with The Rock coming in second. Drew McIntyre went from serviceable on the microphone to developing this just hateful, bitter character that he started in 2023, developed further in 2024, where he always sees himself as being in the right. I suspect this is a Michael Hayes sort of intervention, maybe, because he was great at sort of making the heel, no matter how far out his logic may be, must feel he's in the right, because they are the truly dangerous bad guys. And Drew McIntyre really encapsulates that, not only on the microphone, on social media as well. They should have an awards for best on social media. Drew McIntyre would have won that 10-1, from second place, obviously. The Rock coming in second. I mean, if he was around all year, he probably would have won. I mean, no one on the microphone can touch The Rock. But the fact is that he was gone by April, and aside from being seen, well, I think he cut a promo in January, which doesn't count. But I mean, he's still amazing. Like, he blows his charisma and everything, blows everyone out of the water when he's with them. But then we get to third, Adam Page, and fourth, Will Ospreay. Yeah, okay promos, but no way should they be third and fourth when CM Punk is fifth. If Drew McIntyre didn't win it, CM Punk should have won it. CM Punk is, as far as naturalistic talkers, where he's obviously not reading from a script, just the bullet points like they used to do in the old ways, he is the best at it. And if it was up to me, I would have actually voted him 1, Drew 2, and The Rock 3, or just some jumble of those three. I just wanted to make mention as well, Cody 6th, Tony Storm 7th, MJF 8th, which in previous years he would have done a heck of a lot better, but this has been a real... But when he returned in, I think May time, he cut maybe the best interview of the year, or at least one of, and nothing has come up close since in his work. But hopefully, with him now working with Adam Page in 2025, that will change. Swerve Strickland, Paul Heyman should be higher. Next up, Promotion of the Year, WWE, of course. I mean, how else? It couldn't be anyone else. Another banner year, another record year. But number 2, AEW, All Elite Wrestling, with a serviceable amount of votes. But the thing is, they had record bad years apart from getting the TV rights deal. So they're making more money than ever. But, the worst viewership, the worst ticket sales, that kind of thing. So I don't understand how they can be the second best promotion of the year. But CMLL, I would say, should be second, because they've had their best year in 10 years, from looking to be at the brink of collapse after ownership changes, a ton of an exodus of wrestlers, and somehow they've absolutely turned it around. So they should really be second. Next, Best Weekly Show. This is, once again, taste. I wouldn't say AEW Dynamite. I thought the majority of shows were just terrible, not or just boring. Terrible might be too strong of a word, but I thought a lot of them were boring. But in the last few weeks in 2025, they have been getting better. Second and third, SmackDown and Raw, I would suggest one of them should win. But quite frankly, anything that's 3 hours just gets so much filler added in. It's all interminable, and it's all a chore to watch in that sense. So really, it just comes down to your personal preference, of course. Next, Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk as a feud. Absolutely, how could you argue with that? And quite frankly, it's amazing considering that they barely touched. They had 3 matches, and it went an entire year. It just goes to show you the power of promos, the power of character development, and that is something that most people are sorely lacking. And here's your example why it shouldn't be. You should work on it. Most overrated, Nia Jax, which I thought, I mean, who's really overrating Nia Jax? I don't know. I'm not really sure she deserved to win there, but you could argue Solo Sikoa, actually, because, I mean, especially when Jacob Fatu came in, I mean, it's sort of, I don't want to say exposed, but, I mean, Solo Sikoa has been all right, whereas Jacob Fatu is, I think, an amazing talent. And sort of, putting those two together, I think it just sort of just elevates Fatu more. Now, best television announcer Nigel McGuinness, probably deserved. But second, Excalibur, I would dare say absolutely not deserved, because I'm far more of a Tony Schiavone fan and a fan of anyone else, really, who does lead commentary in AEW. And number 4, I just wanted to highlight is Michael Cole, which, can you imagine, 5 years ago, Michael Cole turning up in the top 50 announcers, quite frankly. But ever since Vince McMahon wasn't yelling in his headset, Michael Cole's completely adjusted his commentating style, and for the better. A few more I want to go through, and then we're done. Worst major wrestling show, AAA, Triple Mania. There are 2 Triple Manias here, and for the most part, they've been pretty awful. But and then second and fourth, the Saudi Arabia WWE shows. I think that's always fair enough, because the Saudi Arabia shows, apart from just the, once again, human rights violations that you are constantly being told to, oh, don't remember then, we're a progressive country now, wink, and here is 50 million a show for you to tell us that. The shows are never any good. I mean, everyone's tired. Not everyone turns up for conscious reasons, I guess, and just I don't know if it's the crowds that are weird, or if it's a bought show, and they always come off as a bought show, and they just never have any real emotion to them, and I just never enjoy them. But number 3, SummerSlam. I don't think that was a bad show at all. How that got to number 3, I mean, Survivor Series number 6. I remember that being a good show. So there you go. At number 10, we just have to point this one out. NWA, I mean, I know it says Sanheim, but it's actually pronounced Sarwin. And I believe any NWA show should win automatically, because every single show they put out is god-awful in the last couple of years. But Sarwin, I thought Sarwin was last year, where I'll be on this all day. I mean, I could do I might even do a full video on Sarwin, the first one. Now, assuming that is the first one, because for whatever reason I thought it was 2023, but there you go. Next, most disgusting promotional tactic. Once again, continue relationship with Saudi Arabia, WWE, and TKO. Now, it's sort of almost saying to me there's actually been quite a low year for most disgusting promotional tactics, because it's almost normalised at this point. It shouldn't be, but it is. And I think that's a sad thing. But the fact that this sort of won over quite a few other things that I'll get to in a second is quite telling that it's actually not been the most disgusting promotional tactic year, I suppose. But let's go through the rest of them. Liv Morgan sending photos to Dominic Mysterio via text, similar to Janelle Grant and Vince McMahon lawsuit. I always bought it as a coincidence. I never really got the correlation between the two, so that's just my opinion. AEW airing CM Punk footage. I wouldn't say that was disgusting as much as blitheringly stupid decision-making that I've talked to people within the company as well, and they all said the same thing. It's almost like you just want to reach through the screen and just stop someone from doing something that you can almost see on a diagram or, a chart. You can just see business going down from the week after that was aired. UFC bringing in Donald Trump as a hero. Depends on who you vote for, of course, but I'm surprised that got so low. Other than to say that it's UFC, most people wouldn't vote UFC, I guess. I mean, for 2025, it could be not firing that idiot who was really, really keen on Hitler. Next, WWE whitewashing Vince McMahon from history. What else are you going to do? I suppose on that. WWE talking about sellouts and record gates. Why? I mean, you're supposed to tout them. This one's interesting. WWE having their women to a... It's written WWE having their women to a swimwear photo shoot in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, that's weird. 8, Paul Levesque saying he didn't read the Janelle Grant lawsuit, and then instead touting a great week for the company. Yeah, I think that, dare I say, that should have won, because that was really embarrassing. That was such a bad look. What, you don't know that your father-in-law, what he's been accused of? Stop it. Of course you did. Maybe you didn't read the entire 68-page suit like I did, but you'll have a damn good idea of what was going on. That was drawn with the WWE silence on Lee Fitting, where he was removed from the credits for a single week and then just put back on. He's one of the big wigs, executive producer in WWE, helps with directing. Is he a director? He's an executive producer. But anyway, he had issues with women in ESPN, quite a few accusations over the years as well. So that should probably be higher as well, considering the Vince McMahon situation. And number 10, Netflix promoting Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. Once again, that should be higher, but it's boxing, not wrestling. And we've got 2 more. Worst television show, AEW Rampage, is tops, which it shouldn't be when NWA Power still exists. Excuse me. I'm not editing that out. And last, the worst gimmick. Now, the learning tree, yeah, you can it's definitely got its moments, though. I mean, it has to be said, but I think a lot of people really don't like Chris Jericho. I say I think, I know. The White Six would have been a good gimmick if it was going to be a main event thing, which I don't with the amount of main eventers already in WWE, it never was going to be. So it was either main event or bust, and it's turned into a bust. Death Riders, I'd argue maybe they should be where they are, but I mean, once again, for what it should have been, maybe it should have been 1, I think, because it's been such a letdown ultimately, and it's been going on for over 6 months now. But really what I want to say here, number 5, Timeless Tony Storm. 5th worst gimmick. And I mentioned on a previous video, do you know that there are some AEW fans that really hate the Timeless Tony Storm character? And people are like, no, they don't. Of course they don't. Here is your proof. Some people out there think that's the worst gimmick in 2024, when it's quite clearly one of the best. But, there's just no accounting for taste, I guess. And somehow, number 9 is Rookie Tony Storm. So more people thought Timeless Tony Storm was worse than Rookie Tony Storm. Goodness me, I mean, try and work that one out. Anyway, those are the ones I wanted to bring to your attention. Now, if you heard, Dave Meltzer recently, it's going to be no shock to you that he was complaining of some of the results. I mean, none of those. Obviously, he was complaining about best match and who should have won, best wrestler of the year, I guess, and that kind of thing, despite the fact his own fans, who mostly agree with him, voted the other way. But apparently, he didn't hint hard enough to who they should have voted for, of course. But then, that's really it. That's everything I've gone through the newsletter, so that's all. Like, comment, subscribe, see you for the next video, and it'll be out probably tomorrow, I think, so I'll see you there.